fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions. Fact, don't ask, grab reactions. Jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused. Call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now. Y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet now. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here. And now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Junto. Now, after being in a coma, quote-unquote, while his body changes into that of a demon for 3 months, he has awoken. He did then spend 3 weeks trying to get accustomed to this brand new body. Now, along with that, we do actually have where he's facing off against the man who he believed would have been his biggest threat to taking out the human nation. Now, the man is currently level 316. Well, Deku, he is a level 1 demon, or evolved human. Now, this is very strange. Deku and the man, they do fight on par. And Deku has noticed a few things. The man, he does use heavy amounts of strength magic, along with fire magic and, well, it's a form of defensive magic called reformation magic. Now, you do also have his party, Bell, Lee, Ray, and Tori. These 4, using flying Pegasus, are going to kidnap the prince. And after they do that, they'll be able to at least hold him themselves. Now, with that we do cut to Dorzaya, as his chain spear weapon is slicing through and cutting through the battlefield, strangling and crushing men, and killing many. As we do actually cut to him, and the man Deku does fear. The two are currently walking towards one another. Deku holding his blade as the man he does go to bring up his hands with his axe. And the two do quickly rush forwards. As their weapons do clash, and their strength, it does show. Directly as the weapons clashed to both sides of the left and right, the ground just cracked open, and the two quickly did jump back before jumping back towards each other. Each slash and attack, the ground underneath them breaks and rips open, and people they do watch from a distance. As you actually have with the man, after he does go to slam his axe downwards, he does go to bring up his knee, him kicking Deku in the gut. As Deku, he does get sent flying through the air. As he does so, he actually does have his wings pop out of his back, as he does go to flip over, and go to bring up his hands. Him casting his elemental magic, as clouds do begin to appear in the air, and lightning does directly strike downwards where the guy is, as water does also begin to start pouring from the clouds, and it does then form into ice. Deku creating spears out of it as he does go to rush him with them. Now, the man, whenever he was struck by lightning, he did just hold guard, as he does bring up his weapon and go to blast away at the ice that's being currently directed towards him. As we actually have Junto, who does do one thing. He does go to bring up his hands and blast out lightning, as he does send this all throughout the ice. Now, the man as he did go to swing out his weapon, he does go to quickly let go of it. I'm going to grab it with his other hand and then directly smash it upwards. Now, as he does so, the wind does knock some of the ice off course. As you actually have where it does slide directly past one of his arms as the ice does quickly melt, and the man he would feel the shock. As Deku does then go to fly in. Now, as he does fly in, he does sound out multiple sword slashes, and the man he does see them. I'm going to send out regular mana slashes as well, as their clashes do collide in the air and cut each other apart. Now, Deku does continue doing this, as people are watching. Now, eventually Deku he does come in. Him going to rush in and directly go for the kill. He's going to try and go for the neck. Him directly reaching out and going to grab the man's neck as he does begin to start forming a dragon claw. Now, the man he does go to bring up his hand, and he does directly go to grab Deku by his face. Deku going to bring up his left knee and directly kick into the man's right arm, as he actually does go to do one thing. He does decide to try and cast blood magic. Now, he actually does go to do this, the man's hand beginning to shake and somewhat begin to open freely of his own grip. And the man he does see that. Deku pulling his face away as he does directly look towards the man. Him casting Bloodlust. Now, the man he does see that. As he does just stand there as Deku, he does directly go to bring up his leg and directly kick him as hard as he can in the chest. The man actually coughing up some blood as he does get sent staggering backwards. Deku jumping backwards before grabbing his own sword again, bringing his hands up and going for a heavy slash. Now, the man he does look at that. The slash it does hit him. However, it barely does anything to his own skin. That was all. You shouldn't underestimate me. I'm not underestimating you. Your skills, they're good. I haven't had a fight like this in years. Really? Do you ever stop? No. Now, the man he does go to rush in. Him throwing his axe overhead as he slam it downwards. Deku blocking the attack with his sword. As the man does throw the axe back overhead and do this over and over again. Him trying to rush him with a fury of attacks. Now, as that's happening, you actually have Deku, who he does go to bring his hand downwards and quickly do one thing. Explosion. Now, the man he does jump backwards, as Deku himself does as well. Now, Deku does then go to bring up his hands. And he does just try to think. Okay, let's see. Him looking over his stat tree, as he's quickly running. Parallel Mind, what do we have? Let's see. Poison Magic. Best option. That stuff doesn't work. Did it evolve as well? Yes, it did. Deku dodging at a slash as he does slide underneath the guy's legs. Him trying to punch into the man's kneecap. What do we got? Evolution form of poison. It's a skill called Rot Magic. Rot Magic? Yes. Skill allows you to decay flesh. Along with that, it does emit poison over time. Perfect. Any other new skills? Red Thread. What is that? That one's easy. Using your own blood, along with mixing with your sewing techniques, you're able to at least create thread that is nearly indestructible. Nearly, what does that mean? It depends on your skill level with it, along with your own strength. Now, Deku's dodging out of the way. Okay, we got some stuff to work with here. Now, the man he does stare at Deku, as he's dodging and weaving out of his way. Before Deku he does go to move out of the way of one attack, as the man does go to slam his arm out towards Deku's direction. Deku bringing out his arms and directly grabbing to the man's forearm, as he's fighting against it, and nearly being pushed back. Are you done? He does say going to bring up his hand to directly punch into Deku's face. Deku dodging on the way of it, as it does miss him by, a small margin. As Deku does go to turn and directly bite into the man's arm. Now, the man he is surprised, as he does feel an immense amount of pain in his right arm. Now, he does go to quickly move backwards, as Deku rips out that chunk of his arm, and the man he does look down at his own right arm. Now, Deku he does begin to start smiling, as he does at least have a trail of blood pouring out of his mouth. What did you just do? Easy. Deku looking at the man. 50 hit points are dropping every time, every second. Good. Now, Deku just stared at him, informing him that what he just did was pretty simple. But he's going to have to at least get a little bit more creative if he does want to figure it all out. Now, the man does look down at his arm. It looks pretty bad. He's seen what this looks like before. That's, well, what a rotten body looks like. Now, he does just going to bring up his hand, covering the wound as he does quickly heat it up. Him dropping his defensive magic quickly. And Deku does watch that. The man heats up the wound before just ripping off the inflicted flesh. And Deku does stare at that in somewhat, well, amazement. Now, the man is just going to bring back up his hands, informing him that that won't ever happen again. Maybe. But you're forgetting something. Now, Deku he would vanish from view, and the man he does look surprised. Him going to look around and quickly bring up his guard more, covering himself in a fiery aura. Now, you do actually have where a sound can be heard, as a thread does directly wrap around this guy's neck. Now, he does go to try and increase his power, as threads do wrap around his wrist and directly around his waist and legs, as he's pulled backwards. Now, we do actually have Deku, who he's quickly running with the man, as he's just going to throw him around him and slam him into his own troops. The man, as this does happen, he does see his own men. Many of them cannot be around his own aura, so he does have to at least drop that right now. As he does so, he does go to bring up his hands and grab away at the threads, him pouring his own mana into them, as some of them do quickly begin to break. And Deku he does take this opportunity, him increasing his magical power and fighting against the man with the threads. Now, he does go to do a few things. Coat them in poison, pour more mana into them, and just try and generally mess this man up. As he does slam him through his own troops once more. And he does finally at least retract his threads. And the man does watch them as they do go directly back into Deku's hands. I like that one. Have you no honor? No, I don't, Deku does say. Him walking forwards. That's good. He's depleted at least a tenth of this man's health. However, at the same time, this guy still has plenty of mana. He's not even a fifth of the way down. You know, you're gonna really have to start trying if you want me to kill you. Trust me, you're making it look a little too obvious. Besides, I myself still am holding back a few tricks. Tricks, you say? Yes. Now, Deku he does go to transform, turning into his Wyvern state. And the man he does see that. It does look quite different. It looks larger. And even then, there's also the fact that that body is no longer made of human material. Now, he does go to bring up his hands, as he does cast a large fireball directly towards the large beast, as it does quickly bring up its mouth and breathe fire directly back in this man's direction. Now, the fireball as it does head in, Deku is able to blast it backwards, pouring more mana into the attack. And the man does have to go and bring up his hands, as you actually have a version of Deku who does pop up directly behind the man and go to stab him with the blade. Now, the man would look down, before he does go to bring up his leg and directly kick Deku in the stomach. Now, that was off guard, or surprising, as you do actually have where he does get pushed back in, directly enveloped by the attack, it blowing up as he does go to stand after a second. And he does look at the situation. Directly in front of him, there's a dragon. And then there's at least another, Junto? What is this trick? Oh, no trick, I assure you. Same person. What is this? What form of magic is this? It's a unique skill. Parallel minds. You see, only one of us is the original. One body can be destroyed. However, there's two consciousnesses within both. Well, technically one. But that doesn't really matter. Now, the copy of Junto does go to rush forwards, as he does rush him with the blade. Now, you do actually have the Wyvern, who he quickly does look around and go to spray blast of magic everywhere, casting fireballs, explosives, and you name it. He's raining down hell and killing the enemies. Now, the man he does see that. This boy's bound and determined to get as much collateral damage as possible. Why is that? Now, he does go back to looking at the copy. As he does, clash blades with it once more. Now, he actually does begin to pour out more mana into his strength. And you do actually have where he does begin to at least start overpowering the copy. Now, the copy each time he does defend against a swing, this is where he does lose at least a foot or two of ground against the man. At this point, his feet are being reinforced by earth magic, and he's still taking on these attacks relentlessly. Now, you do actually have where the man is going to bring up his axe and swing it down, imbuing his axe with fire. As Deku, he does go to look up, and he does go to tilt his blade slightly to the left. As you do actually have where he does then split into two different copies, as he does aim the blade in between where they would have split. Now, you do actually have the man who he did watch that happen. The ground exploding in front of him as the two copies, they do scurry out of the way of this attack. Now, he does turn to the one with the blade. However, he does want to keep an eye on the one that ran the other direction. As you have where that copy that's unarmed, he recalls the chain blade. Now, we do have the original Dorzaya, or Junto, who in his dragon form, he's taking out many different forces. And he does set an explosion in the middle of another large ground troop. Watching as the XP does pile onto his bar and does rank up to level 2. And he does hear his system explain the rank up. Unique level up required. What? You have leveled up and reached rank 2. Achievement is good. What does this mean? Rank up meaning advance to a higher state. Advance to next level. I get it, but why did it take so? Requirement needed. Now, Deku, he did figure something out. It takes around 10,000 people to kill for him to rank up. And that's bad. However, at the same time, that's also good. Now, Deku, he does continue fighting. As, after he's wiped out the forces that do want to come towards him to slaughter, he does turn back to the battlefield, watching as one Junto is throwing and attacking with the chain blade, the man defending and guarding against that weapon, as he's holding up his other hand using his reinforcement magic to have a mana barrier or a mana shield. Now, that Deku is attacking relentlessly with the sword. And we do have for the original, he does go to bring out his mouth, taking a deep breath as he does let out a large fireball. Now, as the two were attacking relentlessly, you do have where the one, he does go to jump backwards with his sword, bringing his hand up and casting Explosion. As we do actually have the other copy, which he did look at that attack. Him going to do the exact same thing. Now, As these two explosives do hit the barrier, you do actually have where he does then go to turn around, looking to see a giant enormous fireball coming his direction. Now, he does go to bring up his hands, and at least pour more mana into the barrier. Now, the attack it does hit, and it does land, the man being swept away in the large fireball, as it does pour into the enemy forces and continue going, exploding, letting out a large flash of light. Now, we do actually have over with the crew, or the rest of Midoriya's party, which they've already made their way into enemy territory. And if the way Junto has described it and the way Lee and Bell have described it, this place they're heading to, they're about to get there. Now, they do at least go to do one thing. All of them holding up 4 different items. Now, they do quickly head to land down nearby, as they do tie up their horses and go to use these items, each one of them breaking a crystal, as they do allow it to cover their body in mana. Now, all of them they quickly do disguise themselves as humans. Their, demi-human appearances have disappeared. Lee, she lacks her ears and tail. However, her hair does remain the same. Same thing with Belle. Now, the only real thing that happened was she lost her tail and her ears. Tori's ears, they got less pointed. Or, that's Ray, my bad. And Tori, she did do the exact same thing. Now, they all do start each other. They look very strange. However, they quickly do go to rush towards where the enemy camp would be. Now, this is where they do walk up. Men stopping them, wondering exactly who all these ladies are. As one man does ask exactly why they are here. And we do actually have Belle, who she does step in and inform them that, by royal decree, they are here to fight. Royal decree? What proof of this do you? Her going to hold up a note, as they do look at that. Now, they're quite confused. They weren't informed that anyone was going to be, this being where the two, they quickly do fall down dead. And, yeah. You do actually have Tori and Ray, who do both look at one another. And they do at least give a slight little nod, before they do go to holster some tiny blades. Now, after hiding the bodies, they do walk into the camp, where many men, they're confused at what's going on, at least what should be about 100 to 300 miles away, if not further than that. They're able to see bright lights in the distance, and those things are far more prominent than anything else on the battlefield, especially the one that just went off and exploded. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that Junto? I think that might be him, yeah. Oh, wow. He got a lot stronger, didn't he? Yup. Now, these 4 do quickly begin to start walking throughout the camp. People are still looking in that direction. Did that get closer? No, it must have been larger, right? Who is that man fighting against like that? This is the most power they've ever seen thrown around the battlefield like this. Now, we do actually have where, inside the prince's tent, or inside the war planning room, you do actually have the prince, who he's talking to a few people. Before these 4, they do walk in. My. Quite happy to have you all here. Why, hello, Prince. Much obliged. It's very nice to meet you all. I'm going to extend his hand, as you do actually have where they do look around the tent. There's various people here. Not too many, and then there's a few guards. As you do actually have Tori and Ray, who do both look at each other. And you do actually have Lee, who does go to at least say now. Belle quickly rushing forwards towards the prince, her tackling to the ground as she does bring her hand up and over his mouth, as she also does bring a blade up to his throat, as you actually have the other three who quickly do move in. Using blade slashes, they do take out a few guards, and Ray and Tori, using their own mana attacks, they do cut in everyone else, quickly disabling them and then quickly moving in for the kill. As you actually have Tori who does tell the prince to stop struggling or she'll cast Fireball into his mouth. Now, he does just stare at her. She's a human. Why is she doing this? Now, he does try and bring up his hand, in an attempt to at least try and do a command. Him trying to say something through her own hand, as you actually have where Tori, after walking over, she does bend down, look at him and ask if they're really going to be kidnapping this guy. He's so weak. Sadly, we do have to. Ray going to bend down, grabbing towards the back of his neck and directly pressing down with some strength, as the prince does actually twitch before passing out. That was pretty simple. Now, you do actually have where two different slaves walk into the tent, them seeing these people as they do just stare at him, or stare at these four. Now, you do actually have Tori who does go to bring her hand up and press it to her lips, saying, "Shh, it's alright. What are you doing with the prince? Listen, we're all demis here." Demis? Yes, listen. We're here to get you free. However, if you say a word about this to anyone, there's going to be a large problem. So just head back out, okay? Now, another explosion can be heard, as you do actually have where these two do quickly run out of the camp, or run out of the tent, while these four, they do gather around each other, as they do pull out a scroll from one of the bags and lay it down, them drawing the symbol that they were told to before lighting it on fire. The scroll flying up into the air as an invisibility spell is cast, and all five of them do disappear with the prince, or the prince and these four do disappear. Now, they would stealthily make their way outside the camp, as we do cut back over to Junto. The two copies are still going at it with this man, and he's gotten back up from that attack. All of his armor is completely destroyed, and you do actually have his weapon, which at this point, it's beginning to crack and break. It can't take much more of these attacks. Now, he does go to stand and look around. Now, there's two copies rushing towards him, and there's the dragon itself that's coming right directly at him. Alright. Now, he does go to bring his axe out in front of him to hold it with one hand, throwing out his left hand flat as he does create a fireball. And he does get to pour a heavy amount of his mana directly into it, before it does just get larger and larger and larger. I'm going to press it upwards and lift it high. As the moment that does happen, he does go to tap it with his axe and then cast a magic spell. Now, the fireball gets sent directly towards the dragon. And we do actually have Junto, who he does drop out of the dragon form and directly go to dodge over it. As, after he did do that, the fireball directly explodes, sending a blast right at him. Now, Junto's hit by the sheer force of this blast, as he does go to bring out his hands and go to attack. Now, this is where he's sent flying directly towards the enemy. The enemy going to use their other hand and directly grab at the bottom of their weapon, cocking back their weapon as they do then go to swing forwards with all of their might. Now, you do actually have the copies, who one did throw the chain directly towards the man's arms as they did do that. With the other, they did go to rush in and go for an attack. As we do actually have the hero who would cleave Deku in two. And Deku, he does go to look down at that as he does see his legs fly forwards. And he does go to look down. Now, his body would smash into the ground. As the blade of the spear, or the chain blade, it does fly through the air and stab into this guy's wrist. Now, that would hurt the man a lot, as the copy that does hold the sword rushes and directly stabs the man through his leg. And the man does go falling forwards onto one knee, as he does let go of his axe that way. And here I thought I would lose. Now, he does look up, looking at Junto. You were indeed a worthy opponent, but I'm going to say he does go to stand. Now, the two clones made of mana do disappear, as the chainblade does smash onto the ground. Now, the hero does go to stand and look down at the blade in his leg. I'm going to grab it as he does push it through the other side. Now, he pushes it through and lets it hit the ground, knowing what would happen if he does touch the handle. Now, he does go to bring his hand downwards and go to heal his wounds. As we actually have Junto, who after being cleaved in two, he's just laying there trying to think. This hurts so much. Now, he does actually cough up quite a bit of blood. Before, the man he does stand overhead of Deku. You were good. Him reading his stats. Mana level, 65,000. HP level, slowly dropping. Now, the man, he's at least around half of his health, which means that Deku, he's been fighting him for long enough to where that still hasn't taken effect. Shit. Now, the man does start to cough, coughing up some blood, before looking at it. You did quite a number to me, didn't you? You were the adversary. Now, he does go to turn around and walk away. As Junto, he does hear something, before his body has been started to emit an aura. Now, the man would turn around, feeling the mana in the air shift and move. As he does turn around, he does see what's happening. The blood that's flown from this boy's body, it's quickly gathering back together. And it does actually go to reach outwards from his torso and shoot a glob of blood directly at the legs. It's dragging Deku's ankle over before it does begin to start reconnecting the body. Now, the man does watch on horrified, as Deku does lay there on the ground. Before you actually then have the red aura around his body, does begin to get more intense. Before Deku, his legs do go to lay flat on the ground, and his ankles do appear to be broken. Before Deku's body does just jump up off the ground and stand there, as the man does stare on in horror. What the hell? That shouldn't be possible. Now, the man does stare at Junto, who he does have an emotionless expression on his face, before his aura does get more intense. Now, Deku, yeah, his vision just turned red, and a skill has been unlocked. As Junto, he does go to grab away at his head and begin to start screaming out in pure fear, and pure terror and madness. And the man he would watch, as Junto does quickly rush forwards and attack. Now, the man he does go to bring up his hand to try and defend. Him directly creating a mana barrier, as Junto he does punch directly through it. And the man he would see that. Him surprised as he's going to try and bring up his hand, or to at least cut off this boy and move him away from his body. Now, he does directly take the blow as he gets sent flying away backwards, and smashes onto the ground, before getting back up. And you do have Junto, who, he's gone ballistic. His body's been overloaded with pain, and he was sent to near death. As The skill Berserker and Warrior's Madness are both currently active within his body. Him screaming out in nothing but anger. And, well, insanity. As the main heroes watch Junto begin to fight, using mana attacks. Now, his fighting style is primal, and it's less advanced. He's able to tell exactly where this boy is going. He's able to tell what he's going to do next. But it's insane. The boy's so much stronger. This being our Deku or Junto, he does really go to kick around and smash into this man's axe. Him directly smashing through the metal as the axe, it explodes. And the man, he does go, holding his weapon and flying backwards, looking down at it, before just dropping it and smiling, going to bring his hands up. What happened to you? What are you doing? This being where the being known as Junto, he does look up, and the man, he does see his eyes in nothing but pure red. Now, Junto is going to rush forwards, as I do believe that's a good point to leave this part off of, and I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.